When you finally decide to cut contact with a woman, when you stop reaching out, stop chasing, stop checking her stories or replying to her texts, something interesting begins to happen. At first, she doesn't believe you're serious. She thinks it's just one of those temporary moods where you'll cool off for a few days and come back like you always do, because she's seen this pattern before. You've probably threatened to walk away before, but your emotions, your care, your love always pulled you back in. So at the start, she laughs it off. She might even tell her friends, he'll be back. He always comes back. But this time, something is different. This time, your silence stretches longer than usual, and she begins to feel the shift in the air. That's when she starts to notice the absence, not just of your presence, but of your energy. You see, your absence is louder than your presence ever was. When a man who once poured his attention into a woman suddenly goes quiet, it creates an emotional vacuum. At first, she'll fill that space with ego. She'll tell herself you're trying to make her jealous or that you're just playing games. She might post more on social media, trying to look happy, trying to look unbothered, trying to show you she's fine without you. But deep down, that performance is not for the world, it's for you. Every picture, every caption, every laugh she forces out with her friends is an attempt to convince herself that losing you doesn't hurt. Because the truth is, it does. After you cut contact, the first thing she does is test your silence. She'll drop hints, maybe an indirect story meant for you, a post that mirrors something you used to talk about, a quote about love or missing someone. It's her way of saying, are you watching? Do you still care? But when you don't respond, when your silence continues, that's when confusion sets in. She begins to replay everything that happened, your last conversation, your last message, the last look you gave her. She starts to question her decisions. She starts to wonder if she pushed too far, if she took your effort for granted. Because now she realizes something powerful. Attention is a form of love, and silence is a form of power. She may try to distract herself. Maybe she throws herself into her social life, starts hanging out with friends more, maybe even talks to other people. But even in those moments, you'll cross her mind. Because emotional connection isn't something that switches off overnight. When you've been emotionally present in someone's life, your absence echoes in the smallest places. It's in the songs she hears, the spots you used to go together, the late night moments when she reaches for her phone and remembers there's no message from you anymore. Some women react with anger. They might convince themselves you're trying to manipulate them, so they'll push back. They'll post things like, I don't need anyone, or I'm better alone. But that's not strength. It's defense. It's a shield against the discomfort of realizing that someone they thought they had control over has suddenly taken control back. You see, when you cut contact, you remove her access to your energy. You remove her ability to know what you're doing, what you're thinking, and whether you still care. And that mystery, that not knowing, starts to consume her thoughts. With time, her emotions shift from denial to curiosity, from curiosity to longing, and from longing to regret. She starts to remember the little things, how you listened when she spoke, how you made her feel safe, how your energy grounded her. Because in a world full of surface-level attention, genuine presence is rare. And when you withdraw that presence, it's like taking the warmth out of a room she didn't even realize you heated. That's when she begins to feel the real consequence of losing you. Now, here's the thing. When a man cuts contact, it's not just about disappearing. It's about choosing peace over chaos, self-respect over desperation. And women notice that. When she sees that you're not reacting, not chasing, not playing games, she starts to see you differently. The very man she might have overlooked or undervalued suddenly becomes mysterious again, because mystery fuels attraction. The less she knows about what you're doing, the more her mind fills in the blanks. She starts to imagine you moving on, becoming happier, growing, thriving. That thought doesn't sit well with her. So, what does she do next? She might try to re-enter your world subtly. Maybe she likes an old picture of yours. Maybe she replies to a story with a simple emoji. Maybe she sends a casual message, something harmless on the surface, like, hey, how have you been? But that message is never just casual. It's a test. She's testing to see if the door is still open, if you'll still respond, if you've truly moved on. And that moment, right there, is when the power dynamic flips. Because now, she's the one wondering, she's the one thinking about you, replaying moments, feeling emotions she tried to bury. Silence made her reflect in ways words never could. You taught her something by not reacting. You taught her the weight of your absence. And whether she admits it or not, that lesson stays with her. There's also a deeper layer to this. Sometimes, when you cut contact, it forces her to confront herself. Maybe she realizes how she contributed to the distance between you. Maybe she remembers the times you needed her to understand you, but she didn't. And for the first time, she starts to feel a kind of empathy she didn't before, because reflection always comes after loss. When you were there, she couldn't see clearly. But when you step back, she sees everything, your effort, your love, your patience. She realizes that you weren't weak for caring, you were strong for giving. Eventually, she'll make one of two choices. Either she'll reach out and try to rebuild what was broken, or she'll quietly carry that regret with her. And either way, you win. Because cutting contact isn't about punishing her. It's about healing yourself. It's about showing her and yourself that you don't need constant validation to know your worth. See, most people think that silence means defeat, but silence can be the loudest statement you'll ever make. When you stop explaining, stop begging, stop trying to prove your worth, your energy speaks for you. And people who once overlooked you begin to notice. Because you can't miss something until it's gone. She may act like she's moved on. She may even meet someone new. But deep down, the connection you built with her doesn't just disappear. She'll compare others to you. The way they talk, the way they listen, the way they care, it'll never quite match the energy she once had with you. And every time she thinks of you, there'll be a mix of nostalgia and guilt. Nostalgia for what you shared, guilt for not valuing it when she had it. In some cases, she'll come back around, but not always with a full heart. Sometimes she comes back just to see if she still has access to you. That's why when you decide to go no contact, you must mean it. Because real change doesn't happen while you're watching her every move. It happens when you stop caring what she's doing altogether. When your focus shifts from her to you, your energy changes. You start looking better, feeling better, becoming more confident. And that energy, authentic, self-assured energy, is magnetic. She'll sense it. Even if you never post about it, even if you never say a word, she'll feel it. Because energy doesn't lie. She'll feel your detachment and it'll make her uneasy. Because now she's no longer sure of her place in your life. And the irony, that uncertainty is exactly what she used to make you feel. Life has a way of balancing things out. When she realizes that you've truly moved on, that your silence isn't anger but peace, something inside her shifts. She understands that you were never the weak one. You were just someone who loved deeply. And once you stopped, that love turned into strength. Because walking away doesn't always mean giving up. Sometimes it means respecting yourself enough to stop waiting for someone to see your value. In the end, what she does after you cut contact depends on what she lost when you walked away. Some women lose a man, others lose a mirror that showed them what real love looks like. And once you've shown someone that they can never forget it, they might move on, but a part of them will always remember how it felt to be genuinely cared for. So, when you choose silence, understand that it's not about revenge. It's about peace. It's about reclaiming your emotional balance. You're not cutting contact to make her suffer. You're doing it to protect your energy, to stop pouring into a cup that never poured back. And that's something she'll feel more deeply than any words you could ever say. Because in the end, silence speaks the truth that words can't. It reveals who values you and who only valued your attention. And once she realizes the difference, she'll understand that losing contact with you wasn't just losing a person. It was losing peace, presence, and power. And that realization will echo every time she thinks of you, every time she wonders what could have been, every time she scrolls past your name and hesitates before reaching out. That's what she does after you cut contact. She feels, she questions, she regrets. But most importantly, she remembers. And by the time she realizes what your silence truly meant, you'll already be too far ahead, healed, whole, and at peace with your choice to walk away. And as time continues to move, her mind becomes a battlefield between pride and emotion. Part of her wants to reach out to break the silence and ask if you still think about her. But her pride won't let her. She tells herself she's stronger than that she doesn't chase anyone, that she's fine. Yet late at night, when everything is quiet, her mind drifts back to you. She replays the sound of your voice, the way you looked at her. The little things you used to say that made her feel like she was the only woman in the world. That's the thing about emotional connection. It's invisible, but it lingers. Even when it's broken, it keeps pulling at the edges of the heart until the person either faces it or runs from it. And most of the time, she runs. She'll try to fill that void with distractions, new people, new hobbies, even new versions of herself. She might change her hair, start dressing differently, start acting like she's evolved, as if losing you pushed her into a new chapter. But what she won't admit is that the change isn't always about growth. Sometimes it's about escaping. She's trying to escape the version of herself that you once knew, because being that version reminds her of what she lost. So she reinvents herself, hoping that this new image will erase the memories. But it never really does, because because healing doesn't come from pretending. It comes from understanding. When you cut contact, she's forced to sit with that understanding. She begins to notice the silence between her thoughts. She realizes that you're not there to reassure her anymore, not there to answer her questions, not there to remind her of her worth. And when that realization hits, it humbles her. Because whether she wanted to admit it or not, she depended on your energy. You became her emotional anchor without her realizing it. And now that anchor is gone, she starts to drift, trying to find stability in herself, yet constantly drawn back to the memory of what used to be. At first, she might talk about you with her friends. She'll bring your name up casually, like it doesn't mean much. She'll say things like, "We just grew apart," or "Hey, he's probably doing his own thing." But her voice will always have that subtle hesitation, that tiny crack that gives away the truth. Because every time she talks about you, she feels something stirring deep inside, a mix of nostalgia and guilt. She'll check your social media, not because she wants to interact, but because she needs to see if you're still there. She wants to know if your life has changed, if you found someone new, if you look happier without her. And every smile, every post, every moment that doesn't include her becomes a silent reminder that she's no longer part of your story. That's when her heart starts to feel what her mind has been denying. She starts to understand that you weren't just another man. You were the man who tried, the man who showed up, the man who gave more than he received. And now that absence burns differently. Because she realizes that love isn't about how often someone chases you. It's about how consistent they are when you're difficult to love. You were consistent. You stayed through the chaos, through the confusion, through the moments she pushed you away. And now when you're gone, she finally sees that consistency for what it was, devotion. Days turn into weeks. And her curiosity becomes anxiety. She wonders what changed in you. She wonders why this time you didn't come back. Because your silence doesn't just confuse her, it unsettles her. It forces her to question the image she had of herself. In her mind, she believed she could always have you. That no matter how she acted, you'd still care, still reach out, still try. But now that you've stopped, her confidence begins to crack. She starts to see the power she thought she had wasn't real. It only existed because you kept giving it to her. When you withdrew, she lost it. And now she's the one replaying old messages, scrolling through old photos, reading conversations that once made her smile. She's looking for signs, trying to decode where things went wrong, trying to understand if you truly moved on. But deep down, she already knows the answer, because your silence speaks volumes. It tells her you've grown. It tells her you've chosen peace. It tells her you've learned that chasing someone who isn't ready to appreciate love only leads to pain. And that realization hurts more than anything else. She might start to dream about you out of nowhere. Those dreams feel too real, like the universe reminding her of what she lost. She'll wake up with that heavy feeling in her chest, wondering why she can't shake your presence from her mind. She'll tell herself she's over you, but her subconscious knows better. Because memories aren't easy to erase when they're tied to emotion. And you weren't just a passing emotion, you were a chapter that changed how she views love, trust, and connection. Eventually, she'll start to romanticize you. The things that once annoyed her now feel precious. The quirks she used to criticize become the very things she misses most. She'll remember how you looked at her when she wasn't talking, how you seemed to understand her silence, how you made her feel seen in ways others never could. And that's when regret deepens. Because now she realizes she lost someone who loved her with pure intentions. Someone who didn't need to impress her, didn't need to control her, just wanted to care for her. And that kind of love doesn't come twice. There's a quiet beauty in the way absence teaches lessons. You didn't have to say a word for her to understand. The distance spoke for you. It showed her what life feels like without your warmth, without your presence, without your effort. And no matter how much time passes, that awareness stays. She might move on physically, but emotionally, a piece of her will always wonder, what if? What if she had appreciated you sooner? What if she had matched your energy instead of testing it? What if she had stayed instead of pulling away? These questions don't go away, they linger. And while she's caught in that cycle of reflection, something powerful happens within you. The silence that once felt heavy starts to feel peaceful. You stop checking your phone, stop overthinking her absence, stop craving closure. Because the closure was never something she could give you. It was something you had to give yourself. You realize that letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying the weight of what was never yours to fix. Meanwhile, she senses that shift. Maybe she sees you looking happier, calmer.